Hey everybody, welcome to the Face-to-Face Ministries podcast, the #1 resource for learning what it means to have a healed heart, connect more deeply with Jesus, and experience true and lasting transformation in your life. I'm one of your hosts, Kathy Little.
And I'm your other host, Melinda Wilson. Please hit subscribe so you don't miss the fresh content we're continuing to release. And while you're at it, we greatly appreciate your help in getting the word out by giving us a 5-star rating and leaving a quick review. You can also keep up with us by following our social media by searching face-to-faceministries.org on Facebook. That's no spaces, no numbers, and no caps. And on Instagram at face-to-face-min, and that's all one word.
We want to invite you to join us in our free Face-to-Face Heart Healing Network and in our premium network. Be part of a growing community of people just like you who are wanting to dive deeper into what it means to access the full benefits package of the cross and learning how to help others do the same.
Our team also offers one-on-one ministry sessions that can be done virtually, and you can also learn how to help others connect with Jesus and find healing in their lives through training we offer in the ministry model we use. And for more information about all of the resources, trainings, and events that we offer, visit face-to-faceministries.org. And while you're there, please sign up for our newsletter.
All right, so let's dive into today's episode.
Episode 142. We are so glad that you're here.
Yeah, welcome everyone.
And welcome back, or welcome for the first time. And we have some exciting things to share, but I wanted to say that this is part 2 of Jason Clark, who the conversation was riveting.
Yes, it was.
If you haven't had a chance to listen to the first one, please do
it.
Go back because this literally is the second half of a conversation.
Yes, and we pick up literally in the middle of it. And you might notice that we have released this a little bit sooner than usual. We're on a publish every 2-week schedule, but we push this one up to get it out in just 1 week. And there's actually a big reason for that. We are currently about to embark on a cross-country road trip out to Dashaway 38 in Lake Tahoe. And we are not going to be publishing any podcasts for a couple of weeks.
Why is that?
Because we're going to be on the road and we're going to be out of Wi-Fi for some of that, because we're going to spend some time enjoying some of the national parks in Utah on our way out and back. We're going to get to see some really good friends, some peers of ours that are leading another ministry. We're going to get to see them on the way. And it really is a little bit of a working trip and a restful trip.
Because it won't be working when we're in a tent
we are
somewhere
camping
in Utah.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. Yeah, it's actually humorous that we're actually going to do that.
It's humorous because the last camping experience I had was horrendous. So
Mine
this is
too.
going to redeem it. And that was 20 years ago.
Well, I have been doing everything within my power to make this a positive experience, from all the main necessities of making the tent experience more of a glamp experience without having an RV.
Without having electricity or air conditioning.
Well, we'll have electricity for a fan.
I don't know. What would you consider glamping? Please let us know.
Well, that's going to be where
you've got have an RV, dear.
Cushy beds,
right.
Flush toilets. I don't know.
So I wouldn't call this glamping. I would call it tenting upgraded a little bit.
As best I can.
Yes.
With everything in my power.
It's very impressive.
But we're looking forward to that, but there's a lot going on getting us ready to leave for that. One of the things we want to do is get part 2 out of Jason Clark so that you can hear the rest of that conversation. And then we'll just let you chew on it for a few weeks until we get back up and running in August. And we know that y'all will miss us, but I bet there's people listening to this right now, Melinda, who have not listened to all of the podcasts. There may be a few, and they have time to go back and listen to some things they missed.
You can start at number 1 or just pick some random number.
There you go. But hey, we've got something coming up in September that we want you to be part of. We talked about this in the last episode. We want you to be part of what God is doing in the UK with the Dashaway weekend. We've got 2 weekends planned over there. We've done 15 of those, 15 Dashaways over there already, but this is our chance to go back, minister to ladies there, and we've already got several people signed up for those 2 events. But those events they're not paying us to come over. We are actually doing that, raising funds here in the States so that we can get over there and run the retreats. So if you're interested at all in supporting that, we would invite you, we are asking you to give toward that trip. You can go to our website, to the Give page, and there is a link right there for you to contribute toward that specific event.
Especially inviting those of you who have experienced Dashaway in the past.
Yes.
You know the value of it, and it's an invitation to welcome our British sisters into that experience of connecting with Jesus and finding rest and healing and renewal. And we'd be honored if you would partner with us in that.
Yes. And so we also would love your prayers for that too. We've got a weekend in Scotland, the first weekend of September, and then the third weekend of September will be in England near Oxford. And it's very exciting to be able to go back because we have so much invested, so many relationships over there from previous trips, and we're very much looking forward to that. And we would love to have you partner with us. So you guys know that we are primarily focused on raising up an army of heart healers. We want to raise up people who are skilled with the Emmanuel approach tools. That's the model that we have been called to. And the Dashaway weekend, this is 10 years of the Dashaway weekends, and so we're celebrating that, doing some extra with that. But our heart is to really raise up people to be able to have these tools, not only to help others, but to help themselves and their relationship with Jesus. It really is discipleship because of all the brain science that's involved and the mirror neurons and all of that. We've talked about that in previous podcasts, so we won't take time for that now. But we are getting ready to completely rebuild our online ecosystem. I don't know what else to call it, but we've got community, we've got tons of content, we've got events, we have all these things that people who come to us through our website and online use to be part of what we're doing. And it's all on one platform that we have found to not be super efficient. And so we're moving it to a new platform that's going to optimize our time. It's going to reduce a lot of the extra manual things that I've been doing administratively.
Primarily, it's to serve you.
It is
better. That's really what this is about. How can we add value to your life? How can we serve you in a more efficient and valuable way that will transform your life?
And how can we make your experience of our online stuff easier, more efficient, and not cumbersome or confusing? Because that's what we've bumped into. We want to do this to create a place for you to easily access what we've got going on and to be able to navigate that more smoothly, automate things. And it's just going to be a world of beauty by doing this. So we're very, very eager to release all of that. That is happening. But one of the things that we are excited about with that is that we are in the middle right now of planning to launch a more individualized, customized, accelerated intensive training for individuals who are like, I need the tools and the skills now. I want them right now. I don't want to wait over
I want to accelerate my training. I want personal coaching.
Yes.
One-on-one coaching with either Kathy or I. This is a really exciting. I'm thrilled.
Yes.
We both are. It's a new vision, and we're hearing the need and we're hearing the desire to, I want to get going with this now. I want to help people heal right now as soon as possible. We're
having people contact us through the website asking, when's the next training? I want to get trained. Where is it? And folks, we're kind of dependent on you all to invite us to do trainings in your area. We don't just like go into an area blind. We need people on the ground who invite us in. And so we don't have any of those right now. We've got a couple of things planned for 2024, but nothing here. And so we want to provide a place for people who are like, I need this right now. I want to accelerate my growth. I want to have these tools activated, and whether maybe their counselors already using some other tools and they want to add it to the tool bag. So be looking for information on that coming out. That's something that we plan to launch pretty quickly. Even though we're on the road, we're actually...
It is a working trip.
It is a working trip.
Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, some of it is.
When I'm driving, she'll be on the laptop. When she's driving, I'll be on the laptop.
Not
the whole entire time, but a lot of the time.
Yes. It's going to be good, and we're looking forward to that. So make sure that you're following us on social media and also newsletter and all that kind of stuff. So without any more delay. I know you guys are waiting, and I've talked to some folks that have listened to part 1, and they're like, "Oh, it was so good with Jason," and so we want to get that out to you right now. So here is part 2 with Jason Clark.
Well, I'm wondering why it for a lot of people, you're saying, Jason, it's liberating, but at the same time, I find not now, but that it's actually more comfortable for a lot of people to stay in that pleading, begging, desperation state because they're used to it. And I feel like part of this is neural pathways. It's old programs and patterns and ways of thinking and behaving and believing. And not everyone's going to get it because it's easier to stay in that place of, if I do this, then God will do this for me. Even the charismatic world, it's both. It's not even a denominational thing, because I've been charismatic and I've been more conservative, and I don't even like the titles anymore, to be totally honest. Sure. And I won't even label myself as any title, because then we judge and there's an assumption about that person immediately. But I feel like there has to be some kind of encounter or experience, but then I hate to say decision, because it's more than a decision. It comes out of the encounter and experience, but there is the choice to start to think differently. And because it's not going to just happen overnight. I have to, and so that's, I think, going to make it uncomfortable and distasteful or uninviting for some people who don't actually want to change their mind, literally the neural pathways, into a different way of believing and seeing and experiencing God, because it's too hard. And it's kind of like cognitive dissonance. Like, you're telling me this and it sounds too good to be true almost. And I'd rather stay in the pleading or begging or God wasn't with me when I was 7 and all of that. So we can talk about how wonderful this is, but I also at the same time have compassion for people who are like, this is too much. It's like discombobulating, because to change is to actually, you got to disrupt your whole life. You really do. And it's not overnight. I don't see, like with neural pathways, it's not overnight. And I feel like we are talking about that. It's a whole new way of thinking about God and feeling about God and talking about God.
Yeah, no, that's good. And I have two thoughts while you were sharing that. The one, for me, just in my own journey, the liberty I have with that journey that somebody else is on is night and day different. Because of what I grew up in, I would have had to get you changed one way or the other. What I had, you need to believe. It put desperation on me. How I interacted with people was no longer authentic. It became almost transactional, because, and it didn't matter. We're talking about, a paradigm shift, but in a paradigm, and this would be the second part. And it's something I'm really passionate about. I'll say this first. I have, for me, the grace for someone on their journey, back to the sower with the seed. If love is measureless, then it was before and it's after. And this is what gets me in trouble in some places, because before and after is in this life and the next. I'm convinced that the nature of love is reconciliation. And if the nature of love is reconciling, then time doesn't win out over the nature of love. And so that puts me at great ease that we're all on a journey, and the journey and our God isn't the ticking clock. Ultimately, God, in much of my paradigm in the past, really I loved God, but the clock was ultimately what I served. Because when the clock strikes 12, Cinderella is no longer the princess anymore, right? And boy, if you didn't get the prayer said right at that point in time, God help you. The freedom and the liberty to go, wait, love is infinitely better than that. And I can live in the confidence in my personal life. It brings me ease that I can be in the room and I can truly see you and I can truly love you where you are with your neural pathways and your trauma. And, I used to say, I don't want to go, well, I'm going to say it, but I used to think hell was the absence of God's love. And we've already talked about the hell isn't the absence of God's love. He doesn't leave us doesn't forsake us. David said, though I make my bed in death or hell, he's there with me. So hell isn't the absence of love. And then I used to think, well, hell's the rejection. But I don't even think that anymore. I think hell's the inability, because of the traumas and the brokenness and maybe where you've partnered with these lies, to receive love. And I'm convinced that the measureless nature of the reconciling love of God is beyond all we can ask or imagine in this life and the next. Now, that brings me a whole lot of peace and a whole lot of liberty. Yeah. That said, the second part, and that is where how can I help introduce neuropath thoughts that could bring life and freedom here? I think two thoughts. I think, and I ask this often, was Jesus the most obedient person on the planet, or did he only do what was in his heart to do? And the answer is yes. And there's two paradigms through which you can look at Jesus. You can look at him through the lens of servant and master, and it's not a wrong lens. He's the best. If we're going to be servants, we better be servants to him. He's a great master. And we'll even be able to look through the lens of substitutionary atonement, and it all works. He fulfilled it. And you can live there, and that's okay. But you're going to then mark your spiritual maturity by desperation. And that's going to be in lack. That's going to be where you live. But he met me in my desperation, and he was okay with it. When I sang, and I'm desperate for you, man, his presence flooded me with his goodness. And he met me there. And in those moments was recalibrating me so that at some point he could transition me into this place where, well, yes, Jesus was the most obedient person on the planet, but he also lived from union. He also only did the things that were on his heart to do. So when he woke up in the morning, or when he prayed, not my will, but yours, when he woke up in the morning, he would say, Father, I want to do this. And the Father go, that's a great idea. Let's do that. And they lived no longer from lack. Now they were living from union, from the measureless realm. And that's the other paradigm. I'm okay if you live as a servant to a good master. And I can speak to you in that place, and and that may be that your time on this earth is in that paradigm. He's a good dad, and you can call him master. You can even call him dad and still treat him like a master. You'll just be the older brother. It'll put you in the realm of older brother, where now you're slaving in the field. You're still there. You're still part of his family. You're still his son. You're just slaving, and that sucks.
Well, I think just, as you're talking, I'm thinking, another perspective that people could have, or maybe I'm just sort of a revelation of, several things that I have been before. Like, I've just got to I've got to convince you of what I believe because it's the best. Yeah. And that has lessened for me. It's like, it's okay. You don't,
that's the liberty. Yeah.
It is liberty. And yet there is a lot of giving up of control. And so even in this, we're talking about this liberty, I can hear an argument or even feel it from 10 years ago, Melinda, of going, actually, it feels, what you're telling me is great, but that means if I'm not begging, if I'm not pleading, if I'm not performing, then I actually have to give up control. Because then if I am doing all these things, and it's more of a transactional relationship with God, if I'm doing all these things and then I get God to come because I've spent 4 hours in the prayer room and I worship for 6 hours and I fasted for 30 days, then it's all about what I did. And actually now I'm great. And it becomes this weird twisted thing of I made God do something for me, even if you're not thinking that consciously. And so even though there's this liberty in all of this, and I'm coming from where you are now, Jason, which has taken a long time, but it's like, God, there cannot even be another way to live. But I'm also thinking from people who are not there is that there is a lot of giving up of control, even though it sounds like the opposite. It's like, if I'm not performing for God, and if I don't have to get another notch on my belt because I saved more people, then it's not even about what I'm doing anymore. And that can be scary to a lot of people.
Discombobulating. It can be completely discombobulating. Yeah. Absolutely.
Disorientation.
Yeah, it is. It is. I lost my thought. The
discombobulating.
It is.
I love that word.
That is one of my
Spell that word in a spelling. Use it in a sentence first.
Absolutely unnerving. Yeah, I know that journey. I know that journey well. Yeah, I lost the thought, so I'll let you.
Well, I just spent so much of my life going to those meetings, and nothing was wrong with those, and I think it's important though to also not get hard on ourselves for like, I can't believe I used to believe this, and look back at the 10 years ago, Melinda, or even 5 years ago, and go, oh my gosh, Melinda, what were you thinking and believing? Go, that's where I was in the journey. Like you're saying, everyone's in a different part of the journey, and being able to have grace for that. And if you don't come to see the same way I do, that's so totally okay.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
But that for me, it has been truly transformational coming from that place of what can I do to get God to come, even though it was done in the best intention from people. Sure. I do believe that.
Yep.
To this more, and I'm a very passionate person. I'm a very like, let's get up and dance, and that's wonderful. But through my own sort of meditation practice, it's not sort of, through my meditation practices and learning much more about that place, I'm coming to God from, I don't have to do anything externally. I actually, for me, the practice is going within. And the talk about the no separation, that I don't, that's been revolutionary, completely transformational of how I even have a walk and talk and conversation with God. And it's not like I don't have to go anywhere, do anything, be somewhere special, go to a certain place in the world, that all of that we've done and sought after for so long, that I have displaced my own heart. And all along, he's like, oh, actually going within is where I'm going to be most present with God.
Yeah. I think that's beautiful. And I that discombobulating moment, that shift, I remember what I was going to say was my journey was, if you could encourage someone on that journey, there were two things that God is, I don't know, but God is good, was a phrase that was allowing me to navigate. It's allowed me to navigate for years, because we're having a conversation about, you use that word control. And, the book before this is, I wrote a book titled God is Not in Control. And we're having a conversation about the nature of our understanding, or his sovereignty and our understanding of it. And this is the fun thing for me, because I'm fascinated by his sovereignty in the context of relationship. And so I'm constantly rediscovering what it means every time I try to give him control, because I've done that my whole life. I could try to give him control, and he goes, "Oh, I love you. That's awesome, but I'm not going to take it." That's not what love does. I'm so grateful that you're going to give that to me, but that's actually not the paradigm I navigate in. It's that thing that you're talking about. The spirit within us brings us into the freedom of self-control. And so for me, the discombobulating moments of where I live with, I don't know, but he's good. The goodness of God and Jesus' perfect theology. If I wanted to thank Bill or hug him for anything, Bill Johnson, I would hug him for those two things, because those were the things that put me on this journey that confronted desperation and separation. Was that God is in a good mood, which when I first heard it, I giggled. I mean, we're talking 20 years ago now, 18 years ago now, and Jesus' perfect theology. I mean, my goodness, it was like rocket science. I got saved when I was 5. Like I said, went to Bible college. But when he said Jesus' perfect theology, it was like, whoa, I've never thought of that before. Those two things have sustained me through the discombobulation. And then the I don't know, but he's good is how I handle it. And he looks like Jesus. Like, I don't know, but he's good. He looks like Jesus.
Yeah. Seeing God through the lens of Jesus is so crucial. I mean, it's everything. And I'll just be honest with you. I have these 2 words written on this paper that I wanted to comment about, and I wasn't quite sure where it would fit in, and it may not, and I may X this out. But Melinda was just talking about this whole issue of control and how we get so scared when we don't have control of the narrative or what people are thinking, or when somebody believes differently than we do or says something that rubs against how we believe. And in your book, Leaving and Finding Jesus, you comment about social media and like the arguments that happen on social media. Like you can post something and then there's like this firestorm of there's just anyway.
Yeah.
And
I don't know what
you know,
you're talking about.
Yeah, not at all. Yeah. And there's people, you know, right now, I mean, Dallas Jenkins is under massive fire from the church community for things that they didn't even ask him about. So he went on and did this live. And, you know, The Chosen is representing a really good, beautiful, loving Jesus.
Yeah.
But you use the term rage porn in the book.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that is exactly right. And it does have to come. It is that, like, we're so quick to fire against something that we don't understand, we don't agree with, does not support what we've always known. And we get really uncomfortable with that. And all you have to do is look at a thread on social media and you're getting assaulted. You would be assassinated if words were bullets. People have it's like, I'm going to cuss out the driver that cut in front of me and I've gotten, there's no filter, no nothing. And then you park next to them at the grocery store and now they're a person, you know? And so I can't remember who the original quoter is. I think it may have been Benjamin Franklin or something. There's a quote that says, "I do not like that man. I must get to know him."
I like that. Yeah.
And that, if we could do that in the body of Christ, wouldn't that be nice? I mean, it'd be great if everybody could do it, but at least those of us who claim to follow the ways of a loving God, you know, those of us who know Jesus, those of us who are called to love others as we have been loved. But yet there's this culture of rage going on around subjects like this. Like, I know that there are a couple of things you said a few sentences ago that have people up in their hackles.
Right.
And I'm okay with that. You know,
I don't even know what it is.
Well, you know, stuff you say about hell and everybody goes, you know, and
you know what it is.
and even the separation, you know, some people are God's way out there.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just like this process, and we have to be okay with where they are and not fight our way. And we don't want to fall into the same trap of that argumentative whatever, but just living in the ways of Jesus out of that union and letting our life display that, because I think the world wants that. Yeah.
I just heard the quote. I think it was Abraham Lincoln, but somebody asked him about his enemies, and he said the way you deal with enemies is you make them your friends.
Well, that could be the same. That could be who said what I was just saying. I don't like that man. I must get to know him.
I must get to know him. Yeah, I love that. When you have separation at the foundation of your theology, retribution is a part of your paradigm.
Or the rage.
Retribution and retribution defines justice, and justice requires punishment. And so rage fits very well within that paradigm. And I write about, for me, as I come into the love of God more each day, I see, and I use the story of Jesus with the whip, which I've seen abused. I've seen it taught, where I literally, it's in the other book, God is Not in Control, tells a story about a pastor who preaches with a whip in his hand. The title of the message was "Now Get," and his whole point at that time was that Jesus sometimes whips us. You know, he's going to get for our own good, to get us in line. Yeah. That's in God is Not in Control. I was on staff at that church. I'd preached the week before. You know what I'd preached the week before? Because I already talked. I'd finished my message with "Everyone in this room is a spiritual giant." I'd been telling the story about how we're all created as spiritual giants. And he ended his message with "There are no spiritual giants in this room." And we were both on the same staff. And anyway, that's another story. But my point is that if you have separation as your foundation, then you have retribution. A God who looks away is going to create sons and daughters who can justify looking away. And a God who punishes is going to create leaders who can be justified in punishing, and it's going to create bullies. And yet when you see Jesus go into the temple with the whip, There's no mention of him whipping people. In fact, he took the whole day to braid it, so he was well in control of himself. This wasn't a reactionary Jesus. This was a Jesus who was speaking to injustice. And I think this is what's really key and what's liberating for me on social media or in any interaction is I've adopted this, is that when Jesus flipped tables, he did it in the context of reconciling love, meaning he did it in the foundational revelation of the cross. Father, forgive them, and they know not what they do, is what Jesus said on the cross. And it was all of them on both sides of the table. And so there is a way to flip tables. Justice is about reconciliation, but it's a way to flip tables where you're flipping them and you're laying you can't flip a table you're not willing to lay your life down for the person on the other side of the table. And that's the part that we're missing, because the church is built on separation, and then we have retribution. We can justify flipping tables, and now it's us and them, and we're against them. But Jesus was actually died for the person on the other side of the table. So the only authority the church ever has to flip tables is in the spirit of cruciform love. And then when you flip a table, you're flipping it that's justice. Now you're flipping it in the context of reconciliation. You're laying if you're not willing to lay your life down for the person on the other side of the table, you better not be flipping tables. And that's where I see social media as often a whole lot of people speaking justly about injustice, but in the spirit of separation and retribution. And then they're just a clanging gong or a crashing cymbal. They're not love, and he doesn't know them. And it's just it's a reaction that creates another reaction. And now we've just got this world where all people are missing one eye. An eye for an eye is not meant to be, we're walking around. Have you ever seen a one-eyed man? Retribution is you take the eye. Reconciliation is you become the eye. And those are the differences. And Facebook is where it shows up the worst.
Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah, but I think you're having a conversation about justice, and justice, we need it. We need justice, but we need the justice that Jesus gave us, which, by the way, back to control is then Jesus. People asked, and this is the last book, and God is not in control. They say, well, how do we win in the end if God isn't in control? I'm like, he won through sovereign love. He laid his life down. He did it at a cross, and he didn't do it in the context of the control. We think, in fact, he did it only in the context of self-control. He wasn't in control of the whole narrative. He laid his life down, was convinced that was greater. That would be the most transformative revelation on the planet, and it would create a movement that here we are 2,000 years later awakening to this oneness with Father, where he lived from the measureless nature of the finished work. Anyway.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because I thought, it's so true. And you're right. That is the lens. So there's going to be that.
I called it rage porn because, when you've finished raging, that there's no intimacy or connection or satisfaction on the end of it.
Right.
So that's why I connected it to that. It's false. You are participating with something meant to be authentic, but it's not. It's false. And then so when you're over it, when you're done, it's empty. It's never actually done heart-to-heart connection. You're participating in the wrong paradigm. That's why I used that language.
Yeah. So good. Wow. Well, we just burned up an hour pretty quick.
It's fun, guys.
Yeah.
This is fun.
Yeah. I'll break it up into two. Melinda, go for it. I know you got more.
No, I was just going to say that if you're left with questions, or rage or anger, it's okay. No, real, and to sit with it and to be pissed off. If you feel pissed off or annoyed or defensive or is face-to-face heretical, be okay with that. And I think that not be okay with that you think we're heretical, but actually,
please no.
I'm sorry if I said anything.
Let it lead you to questions. And I think that we haven't really been.
Yeah. That's good.
We haven't felt safe to have questions. I again, speaking as one who's been a believer since before I was born, practically.
Right.
I wasn't really taught that it's okay to have questions or to even go, oh my gosh, what are they talking about? So to address anyone's discomfort or, I said something at Dashaway and I can say this publicly because I said it in front of 20 ladies. I said God is not in control. And I was thinking of you, Jason, and that whole, because I grew up Presbyterian. I won't go into all of that, but the sovereignty of God. And so everything happens for a reason, and God's in everything. And that child tragically died, but it's God's will, and all of that stuff that it was like messes you up.
Yeah.
And I remember just seeing one person, their face was like shock and horror. And I quickly followed it with some explanation of what I meant by that. And sometimes it is semantics.
Sure.
And then there was a softening as we shared more about what I meant by that. But I feel like it's okay if you feel shocked. It's okay if you feel some discomfort. It's okay. And then I would challenge people, like, if you're feeling shock, discomfort, or resistance, to let yourself, what could be on the other side of that? What could be on the other side of shock, of resistance, of discomfort, and exploring it more, being willing to, I would challenge you, exhort you to be willing to unpack that, because it is the only way to growth. And like going to the gym, like you don't start off lifting 100 pounds. You've got to start light and push past the resistance and keep going. And then you look back and go, oh my gosh. And then you look back and go, I can't believe I used to only be able to lift 2 pounds.
Right.
Now I can lift 100. Same with this. I kind of can't believe I used to believe that about God. Thank God that I've pushed past that discomfort. And then if you do have questions, if you are like bewildered, and don't stop listening to Face to Face or Jason's podcast, but actually reach out for conversation.
Yeah.
Because I would love to have conversation. I know you would too, Jason, when we've sat across the table from each other and had coffee a few years ago when we first met. Right. But actually being willing to listen and to have conversation about this before we just close our ears or our hearts or our minds, sit with that discomfort for a minute, and then, okay, why am I feeling uncomfortable? Why does this bother me so much? What am I bumping up against? Yeah. And so I would just encourage people to sit with that and go and question their own narrative before I think that we're quick to pointing the finger at other people before we actually are willing to look inside, going, what is causing this? So yeah.
I like that. That's so good. True. Yes. Yeah. We're on a journey.
Yes.
We are. All of us. Yes. All of us.
Yes.
And the way that we believe today might not be how we believe 3 years from now. There's going to be deeper revelation. I mean, the journey and the transformation, it's continual. We're not perfect. We don't know everything there is to know today. There are going to be different growth spurts and transitions and expansion, revelation. I mean, it's all okay. But that's Jason, how do people get in touch with you and your world? I know you've got a fantastic podcast. Are you still calling it Reimagining God with Tacos?
We call it Rethinking God with Tacos.
Rethinking.
But I would have done reimagining, but with our Western Enlightenment, rethinking made more sense. So.
That's true. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So how do they find you?
Well, we got to get you guys on and
that's
talk
true.
a little bit about. So that's next. But Rethinking God with Tacos is our podcast. Derek Turner is a good friend of mine, pastors at a local church here. He and I do this together, and most of it's with guests. And we on that podcast, we basically take a thought about the goodness of God, and we realize it'll be better tomorrow. You know, let's have a better thought about who He is. So that's one way you can catch us. Familystory.org is my website. That's our ministry, familystory.org. And then at Jason Clark is on all the socials, Instagram and Twitter.
And read the book. I mean,
yes.
I think to go deeper, so many of us, like you're talking about the rage stuff, and we read one headline. This is what happened with Dallas Jenkins. It's so ridiculous, and it really takes no effort on anyone's part. We read a headline and then we make all these assumptions and judgments and then build a theology or a belief or an emotion or response around this one thing without actually taking into account what the truth is or what the person's story is. And again, or like reading a bumper sticker and then making all these assumptions. So read the book. If you want to know what he thinks about hell, read the book. No, heaven, hell, all of that. But read the book, read his books, and
Believing and finding Jesus.
I think that's really important, Pete, that we can learn and listen to all these people, but come to your own conclusion with God. Ask Holy Spirit, at the end of the day, listen and be open, and then go, okay, Jesus, get quiet with him. Go into that whatever place you go into to connect with him in your quiet place and in your heart, and talk to him about it. And I think that that's really at the end of the day where we have to come to of what's he saying? What is God saying? Instead of just always, well, this person's right. And well, this goes against what my pastor says. Well, so what your pastor says? Like, what is God saying in your own heart? And that's why I love Emmanuel approach, learning people to actually connect with Jesus in this interactive relational way and get his perspective.
Amen. I like it. That's good. Yes, you can get the book. I do write about all that stuff. Yeah. All as a storyteller. It's all in story form.
Yeah, it's a fantastic book, Jason. Well done. Very well done. And listen to the Audible too, because it's just really well done. And I'm not even much of an Audible person. And those books that I have listened to, I haven't really enjoyed or been as engaged, but yours, it's really good.
But when you're reading from your own book, it's different.
Yeah, it is easier when you're reading from your own book. Yeah. Absolutely.
Jason, thank you so much.
Yeah. Hey, honored to be with you guys. So fun.
You.
I love what you're doing. I pray blessing and grace and favor over it. It's really fun to be this far down the road with you guys. And especially, where we met when we started. And at this point, I'm highly thankful and value our friendship and what you guys are doing. So blessings to you guys as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening. And just as a wee reminder, and that's appropriate for what I'm about to say, WEE as in small, just a wee reminder, we want to welcome you into investing in the lives of our British sisters for Dashaway 39 and 40. So significant, you guys. This is a true celebration of what God has done and is doing. And we want to welcome you into that. And by the way, if you want to come over to England or Scotland and come to Dashaway yourself, hello, these are kind of destination places.
Yes.
So we'd invite you to partner with us financially or come on over and be a part of Dashaway. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you can find that on our website. Either click on the Dashaway tab if you're planning to register, or on the Give tab if you want to support it. Thanks so much, y'all. We'll be back in a few weeks.
Thank you for joining us today. If you're enjoying this podcast, please share it with your friends.
And please stay tuned for more great content coming your way.